Who will win the U.S. tariff war, China or the U.S.? Chinese factories are now revealing the secrets behind top international brands. But can we trust what they say? The tariff war has turned into a full trade war and could change the way the world does business. Donald Trump used to warn the world, saying, "I hold the cards," but those cards turned out to be made in China. The U.S. economy is worth $28 trillion, but it has a debt of 124% of that amount. Can putting tariffs on foreign goods really fix this problem? The real strength of the U.S. lies in tech. Google, iPhones, ChatGPT, Windows, NASA, not in pants and steel belts. Right now, 60% of the world's trade uses U.S. dollars, but that might change soon. What Trump believed about himself 50 years ago still shapes his decisions. China controls 90% of the materials needed for America's modern economy. America is not what it once was, and there's a reason for that. Hello friends! You may have already watched this video or seen many like it online. In these viral clips, Chinese factories are exposing the truth about luxury brands from around the world. In short videos, Chinese influencers reveal which famous Western brands are made in Chinese factories. They show how cheaply these products are actually made and how customers in the West pay thousands of dollars for them. Most of the extra cost is just for the brand name and packaging. These videos may not crash the luxury market right away, but they are damaging the special image these brands have. Let's look at the facts. The American luxury goods market is worth over $101 billion. Big names like Levi's, Chanel, Hermès, Gucci, and Ralph Lauren make massive profits. They are also symbols of national pride. These brands keep growing by 4 to 5% each year. Rich people around the world wear them to show their wealth and status to others who can't afford them. There are two main reasons why luxury brands are so valuable. First, they have a deep history and a nostalgic story. Second, they offer exclusivity. Let's understand both with an example. Take Hermès, the world's top luxury leather brand from France. It has a long and rich history. Its logo still shows a horse and cart, even though people don't travel like that anymore. Hermès was started in 1837, in the early 19th century, when horse riding was common. Back then, Hermès made strong leather saddles for horse riders. Since horse saddles had to be very tough, Hermès made them with top-quality leather. Later, when people started using buggies, Hermès began making leather seats for those. When trains replaced buggies, Hermès adapted again and made train seats and large travel bags as people now carried more luggage. So the idea behind a luxury brand like Hermès is this. When you buy one of their products, you're not just buying a bag or a belt. You're buying a piece of history. A story that has been passed down through generations. That story is part of what you're paying for, but there's more. People also pay for exclusivity. Let's continue with the Hermès example. The kind of leather dyeing Hermès does, no one else does it the same. The way Hermès tailors stitch their bags, it's unmatched. The strength and design of Hermès bags, no other company does it like them. People buy Hermès bags today and pass them on to their grandchildren. The bond between a luxury brand and its buyer lasts for generations. The leather, the stitch, the color, it all lasts. That's what makes Hermès special. So, both the brand story and its exclusivity add to its huge value. A product might cost $1,000 to make, but it sells for $30,000 because of this value. Now let's talk about what some Chinese influencers and producers are claiming. They say luxury brands like Hermès, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and Ralph Lauren have a long history, but they are not truly exclusive anymore. Many of their products are made in Chinese factories. According to them, these products are then sent to France, Italy, or the US for final touches, like putting the logo or fancy packaging. They claim that the same product made for $1,400 is sold for $38,000 in stores. These viral videos by Chinese creators question the exclusivity of these top brands. But the full truth is a bit more complex. If you pay close attention to these videos, the influencers never directly say they are making the original luxury items. They just say they make the same product in Chinese factories. And that's somewhat true, because China has been the center of fake luxury goods for many years. But making a product that looks the same and actually creating a luxury brand are two very different things. All the websites shown in these viral videos are already selling high-quality copies of luxury brands. What's new now is that for the first time, Chinese producers are openly telling people in America and around the world, forget the middleman, buy directly from us. They're offering A-grade copies of luxury brands at very low prices. And even with US tariffs on Chinese goods, these prices are still dropping. This new Chinese strategy is likely to work because, right now, nearly 70% of the products sold on Amazon in the US come from China. Apps like Alibaba and Shopify are also part of this big wave. People living in the US already know that there are shops and markets where Chinese-made copies of luxury items are still being sold, and people are still buying them. But this recent trade war has clearly shaken big luxury brands. Their exclusivity is under attack, and they're also being mocked online. That's why brands like Louis Vuitton and Hermès are trying to defend themselves. They are releasing factory maps and saying that their products are made in specific cities, in specific countries, and follow international rules, but they don't show proof. And they're avoiding one big question: how much of their products are really made in China? Friends, this online drama and damage to Western luxury brands may look big, but it's just a small part of the real problem. The biggest damage caused by Trump's trade war is something much bigger: the falling value of the US dollar. The biggest loss for Americans due to the Trump tariffs is that world trade may stop using the dollar. Right now, about 60% of global trade is still done in dollars, but that number is dropping. China and Russia already do 90% of their trade using their own currencies. India is also paying for some oil in dirhams. Brazil and China are moving in that same direction. And even oil, which used to be traded only in dollars, the so-called petrodollar, may now be bought with Chinese money. So here's the main point. Donald Trump's tariff war is slowly destroying the dollar's value. The power of the dollar since World War II came from global trust. But if the US keeps using the dollar as a political weapon, other strong countries will stop using it. They'll switch to trading in their own currencies. This will make sure that no future US president can use the dollar to pressure others. The more trade happens in other currencies, the less demand there will be for the dollar. When demand falls, the value of the dollar falls too. And that will make America's huge debt, already at 124%, even worse. Trump is actually speeding up this process by making unwise decisions. And that's exactly what his global opponents want. Some people also think that Trump is stuck in the past, in the time of World War II factories and industries. But today's world is different. There's a big gap between today's modern economy and the old-style industrial one. Trump and his team don't seem to see that. There was a time when the best thing humans could do was hunt animals for meat. People lived as hunter-gatherers, moving from place to place and using what nature gave them. They lived in small groups, hunting animals together. When the weather was good, they would collect fruits and store them in caves for a few days. If someone asked them for food, they would share it. But if they saw an enemy, they would fight and take what they needed. This was a basic survival economy. People would exchange goods without using money. It's also called a natural or subsistence economy, where the main goal was simply to stay alive. But then, around 15,000 years ago, in about 13,000 BCE, a huge change happened. Humans started farming. This changed everything. The old hunters began to disappear, and people who learned how to grow crops and raise animals became the new leaders of society. Farming and raising animals became modern and civilized work. This new economy was called an agrarian economy, and its most important thing was land. Land meant food, power, and progress. But humans are never fully satisfied. After farming, they started another revolution. They began making tools. They learned how to spin yarn and make clothes. They made needles from bones and stitched animal skins into useful items. Even dead animals became useful. Humans used their bones, hair, and skin. They also started making pottery from clay. They stored extra crops in large clay pots. They mixed herbs and created simple spices. This was the beginning of something new, the artisan industry. In this time, humans started trading things like tools and crafts for food or small silver coins. This was a very early form of industrial activity, the most advanced way of living at that time. This system continued for thousands of years. Then came the 18th century. The engine was invented. This started the industrial age. Factories opened up. Ships began moving goods across the world. Now it was a true industrial economy. The most important thing in this system was manufactured goods. The countries that built more factories and produced more products became world leaders. But friends, even though the industrial age was amazing, it didn't last long. A new era started, the information age. This is the time we are living in today, and its most important thing is information and data. Now, powerful countries and big companies are moving even further. With the rise of AI and digital tools, intelligence is becoming more valuable than just data. A smart idea or a new invention is now worth more than thousands of factories. Top leaders across the world talk about this new idea, the intelligence or cognitive economy, where the most important things are intelligence and services. These services can be anything: handling data, teaching, or automating systems. Quantum physics and automation are at the heart of this. Modern countries are preparing their young people for this kind of future. They are being trained in these smart services and the intelligence-based economy. These young people will be tomorrow's leaders. This was also happening in America. The U.S. was leading the world in technology and modern services. 77% of the U.S. GDP comes from tech and services like IT, education, finance, and healthcare. But then, a leader came to power with the slogan, "Make America Great Again." He said that he wanted to bring back the old factory jobs, like making leather bags and building cars, just like in the early 1900s. He even said smoke from factory chimneys would show progress again. He wanted to return to ideas from 300 years ago. Well, Donald Trump is a real estate businessman. He made his fortune through tricks, tax cheats, and flashy marketing. So, we are not surprised when he says these things and calls it science. He studied at the University of Pennsylvania and graduated in 1968. He always told people he finished with top honors, but in truth, his name wasn't even on the honors list. His school records are kept secret. Trump wants to take America back to an economy that took 75 years to build and move away from the new modern economy. But here's what's more surprising. More than 77 million Americans voted for him and agreed with his plan to bring back old-style factory jobs. During his campaign, Trump once said the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff. His supporters clapped, but economists all over the world warned that tariffs hurt the American people first. Let's understand tariffs with an example. Suppose a leather bag comes to America from China. Its price is $100. An American shopkeeper buys it and sells it in New York for $150. But if the U.S. government puts a 100% tariff, the importer must pay $100 extra in tax. So now, the cost for the American importer becomes $200. Of course, he won't keep this loss for himself. He'll now sell that same bag for $250. In the end, it's the American customer who pays more, not China. And because the price went up, sales will drop. According to Trump's logic, this high price will help local U.S. factories. Local industries will grow. They'll make leather bags and sell them at cheaper prices than imported ones. This will give Americans jobs and make people buy local goods. He says this is patriotism. And free trade? Forget it. That's the smart logic behind Trump's trade war. But America is already way ahead of the industrial age. In 1950, factories and manufacturing made up 30% of the U.S. economy. Today, that number is only 9%. The rest, about 80 to 85%, is now based on services like IT, AI, education, finance, and e-commerce. Most Americans today want to work in these new areas. Jobs in education, tech, design, automation, and e-commerce, like Bitcoin, online services, are popular because they are flexible, creative, and higher pay. People can work from home, grow quickly, start businesses, and switch jobs easily. In factories, workers must go every day, do the same task, with less creativity. Even design, which allows creativity, is actually a service, not part of traditional manufacturing. That's why America is still a superpower, because its people and companies moved ahead. They no longer depend only on old-style factories. To understand this better, back in the industrial age, America's economy was centered in a place called the Steel Belt. It had hundreds of factories and steel mills. People from across the world worked there. But since the 1980s, many of these factories shut down. The jobs moved overseas. The factories rusted. Now, the Steel Belt is called the Rust Belt. This change may have hurt some people, but overall, it helped America move forward faster than any other country. America was the first to modernize and upgrade its economy. Now there is an economy of thoughts, not things. America became a place where big money and trust in ideas turned into success. This is called the American dream. The real challenge now is to stay modern and fast, not to move backwards. Instead of saying, "Make America great again," we should ask, "Great like what? The industrial age? The artisan age? The old farming age?" It sounds silly, but President Donald Trump says things like, "Very good, very beautiful, best in the world," without meaning much. Let's pause here and look at Trump's thinking. He started the tariff game to create chaos, and to use that chaos to benefit himself and America. In hard times, the clever and powerful win the most. That's how Trump works. He either falls into chaos or makes chaos, then promises to fix it. Let's look at an example from his own life. In 1975, New York City was in deep trouble. Crime, gangs, and bad infrastructure. Trump made big money at that time through property deals. He fixed up the Grand Hyatt Hotel, a 30-floor building, using $100 million from his father and business partner. Trump used his father's good relationship with New York's Mayor Abraham Beame, who helped him get a tax break. Trump didn't pay any tax on the hotel for 40 years. That helped him earn $3 million every year from the hotel alone. With that money and more tax breaks, he built many other buildings in Manhattan. He got government help and jobs for each one. The New York Times even showed a map of how Trump got millions in tax cuts. Together, these breaks cost the city $885 million. He used this money to build casinos and other projects. But on paper, he showed losses, so he paid no taxes again. Meanwhile, he always stayed in the news, acting poor and humble to look like a self-made businessman. But his real trick was using bad times to win big. In an old interview, a reporter asked what he would do if he had failed. Trump said he would be more successful. He meant he waits for the right moment, like chaos or weak rules, so he can take advantage. You can find that full interview on YouTube or Netflix. Trump's way of thinking grew stronger with time. Now he uses it on the world stage. That's why he imposed tariffs everywhere, on friends and enemies. He thought they were like old rivals in real estate and that they would return begging for deals. But he miscalculated. His actions hurt the American people more than anyone else. America's system does not support this kind of thinking anymore. America cannot go back to old-style factories. First, because the U.S. unemployment rate is only 4.2%, which is not high. Less than 5% means almost full employment. And the people in that 4.2% group don't want factory jobs like sewing clothes or packing bags. To fill those jobs, America would need to bring in millions of workers from Asia or Africa. But Trump and his team want to send immigrants out, not bring more in. They already feel nervous about the rising number of non-white people. Second, because of U.S. labor laws and human rights, making products in the U.S. would be too expensive. Most Americans wouldn't be able to afford them. That would lead to smuggling, and the dollar would lose value. So, Trump's tariffs won't fix the economy. Meanwhile, China, America's top competitor, has been preparing for this fight since the COVID-19 pandemic. Since 2018, China has been reducing its dependence on the U.S. market step by step. According to CNN, in 2018, China sent 20% of its exports to the U.S. But by 2024, that number dropped to 14.7%. This means China is now less dependent on America. And in this trade war, China has a strong position. Why? Because America needs China's rare earth minerals for its top industries, like tech, defense, and chip making. According to a report by the AP, China controls 90% of the world's rare earth supply. The other 10% is shared by the whole world, and the U.S. has only one mine. Still, America depends heavily on these Chinese materials for its modern technologies. They are needed for things like F-35 fighter jets, submarines, missiles, guidance systems, smart weapons, electric car motors, batteries, high-speed trains, smartphones, laptops, headphones, hard drives, wind turbines, solar panels, graphic cards, AI tools, nanochips, and data centers. You name the sector. Some part of it needs Chinese rare earth metals. And honestly, Donald Trump probably didn't know all this beforehand. If you still don't believe it, read a 1984 article from the New York Times. In it, Trump was asked how he managed to sell flats that were overpriced and not even that special. His reply? People love a dream. If you give them a good story, even a false one, they'll buy it. Just like that, after real estate, he started selling those same kinds of dreams to his voters. But this time, it's not just customers buying condos. He's up against world leaders and another political party. He didn't understand how complex things are now. That's why he still praises tariffs of 30 to 40%, which were used back in the 1870s. But back then, tariffs were the only way the U.S. government made money. That's because Europe and Britain were making the same things as America, and tariffs protected local industries. It made sense at the time. But today's American economy is completely different. It is much more advanced and spread across many industries. No other country matches it. So using old-style tariffs in today's free market economy just doesn't work. Trump may be realizing this now, because in early April, China gave a strong response to the U.S., even though American influencers had downplayed the issue. China said it was cutting off the supply of 6 or 7 rare earth metals to the U.S. These heavy metals are fully produced and processed inside China, and they are vital for semiconductors and the aerospace industry, the same industries we talked about earlier. Friends, the great tariff and trade war is now fully underway. If the American president doesn't back down, it could lead to a serious conflict at any moment. Donald Trump might try to change the situation, but there's one thing that can't be reversed: the world's trust in the U.S. dollar and America's promises. Just like the Russia-Ukraine war has shifted the global power balance, Trump's tariff strategy is pushing the world towards a new economic order. In this new world, dependence on the U.S. will decrease. New markets will open, and new trade routes will be created. The business order that existed after World War II is now over. The world order that America built with its European allies seems nearly impossible to rebuild. This could only happen if America undergoes a major change, especially addressing the huge problem of its 124% debt to GDP ratio. I hope this video was helpful. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to It's Released for more valuable content. Thanks for watching.